Have you ever met somebody and they have a creative hobby outlet? They draw comics, they write short stories, they maybe write game reviews for fun, maybe they program games for fun, make music and whatever tools they like to use or instruments they play. They have a creative outlet. And you know how when you get a chance to look at that creative outlet, that they're doing mostly because it's the way they want to do it. It's what's coming out of them. They're expressing themselves, they're exploring their thoughts. How that can enable you to love them more. And I don't mean more in the sense of like more than anybody else. And I don't mean more like even necessarily a higher, 10 on the scale instead of a 7 on the scale. I just mean like more completely, more accurately. That it gives you a better vantage point into how they think, what they think about, how they're feeling. Because there's things about, the media we like, the bands we listen to, the movies we watch, the way we dress ourselves, the way we do our hair. There's things about that communicate a little bit, but there's not a lot of bandwidth, not a lot of resolution there. And there's a lot of things about our appearance, our height. We just can't do certain things about. But when it comes to the things that we do outside of ourselves, that we create externally, again, it could be drawing short stories, making music, poetry, game programming, whatever the thing is, there's so much more resolution detail if you've got total control over what you're doing with that thing. Within the realm of, again, we're assuming low to no budget because they're doing it mostly as a hobby recreational thing. And so I guess my suggestion, right, and I all the time work with people on different reasons they're making games. And gotta put a little asterisk here. Occasionally, I figured out there's folks who they get mad at me because they're trying to make games professionally. And they think when I suggest there's reasons to make games for enrichment as a hobby, that I'm saying they shouldn't do what they're doing. Of course not. That's ludicrous. By all means, the world should have both, right? I'm largely in those cases actually speaking to the honest folks who may not be making games at all otherwise because they don't see a path doing it as a career realistically from their skill, their training, their contacts, their budgets. Just doesn't seem like it's going to happen as a job. And I'm trying to argue in favor of, well, you should still maybe make games as a hobby, as a recreational thing. But back to our original point here. When you make something creative, only uniquely, mainly for yourself as the primary audience, not asking, what does the general public want from you? Not asking what is it's going to help look in your portfolio to an employer. Then what happens is instead of trying to you ask, what do they want from me? What are they interested in? What will impress them? It gives you a lot more freedom to ask, what do you want from you? Gives other people a way to love you more accurately, more completely, more in detail, in a little way if they have access to your creative expression. But that the same is equally true towards ourselves. That looking at the creative things you produce, that you put out of yourself, even if you don't show it to anybody else, can, in the similar way, you want to see the creative stuff from your friends who do creative things because it helps you get to know them better. Seeing your own output that was done mostly the way you want it for the way you think it ought to be done helps you learn about yourself, get a more full picture of yourself. And then through that, again, you can love a more accurate version of yourself. And this is, again, why I'm trying to fumble with wording here, accurate, complete. Because when I'm saying more, again, it doesn't mean you have even a higher opinion of yourself. Because part of what's great about doing creative stuff is you see the trade-offs you're making. You're seeing in hundreds or thousands of little decisions, maybe some flaws, some imperfections, some differences, some things that aren't your strengths, but that you're doing it anyway, that you're pushing through that you're not letting that stop you from doing the cool stuff that you want to do is part of what makes it a way to give yourself a chance to get to know yourself better. And that's really worth it all on its own, separate from the utility of the other things. Now, realistically, a lot of us would also like to see you more accurately and better, and not just the lens you can put on the rest of the world of what the rest of the world wants from them, right? Not just servicing some stranger's needs, but that the people in your life would like to get to know you better, but in addition to be able to get to know yourself better first and foremost. Every now and then there are these cases, and I'm not saying to bank on, I'm not saying to think of like, well, what are the odds, that you will actually stand out much more interesting and unique and different. If instead of putting your ear out to the crowd and saying, what do they all want to hear from me? What kind of music or poetry or drawing or games do they want to hear from me? You're asking, what do you want from your unique inspirations, influences, life experiences, ways of seeing the world? That's what's going to produce something different that adds more value to the ecosystem, right? I mean, 100,000 people out there all trying to do what they think everybody else wants from them. It's going to look pretty similar, shockingly similar. And I don't want to say it shouldn't exist. Again, it's all valid. It's a perfectly rational pipeline if they're trying to get a job working for somebody else to be able to show I can do the kind of things that your company would ask me to do because I am there in service of what that company is trying to produce for some outside customer. That's valid. That's a strategy. It can even be effective if that is the top priority. And this is why even if someone is primarily prioritizing that in their creative craft, I think it's still valuable to have that outlet on the side. Had a little question yesterday for our home team people of, even with the context, right? Any given time in home team, all of our learning is very grounded in practical projects. We're always building. We've released over 200 games now, just released another yesterday. And in these practical projects, when a situation arises and you're making a choice about which enemy, which item to add, how and why you choose one over another is even an area of expression that is, again, just so much more nuanced, open-ended, helps us make and try out choices. When you're doing stuff primarily for yourself, you're not trying to sell it. You're not, and this is the hard thing, right? As soon as you put a price tag on it, as soon as you're like, oh, I'm going to put ads in it and just see, who knows? The moment you're doing that, you are starting to make a lot of pivots towards what you think is going to be, again, what the outside world wants, more than yourself. You got to try to guess at what they want from you. You can't just try stuff. You can't just do something just to see. But when it's for yourself, primarily for yourself, truly, honestly, what you feel like making because you feel like making it. Give yourself an outlet for that, which a lot of us maybe don't have since we were children. It's a case where you can actually try some stuff, look at it, maybe wince at it, and then go try again because it costs you nothing but some time that otherwise might have been spent on, not that these are bad in moderation, consuming someone else's stuff. The only way we're really going to get to what you uniquely want, and not just as a giant pool of identifiable demographic, is to make the things that interest you the way you want to make them. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks as always for following along. Hope that you are finding an expression, an outlet for what you do, whether it's games, whether it's some other form of creative, even niche in or out of games, graphic novels, writing stories, poetry, social media content, whatever you want to do. Do it first and foremost the way you want to do it, and it can help you love yourself better by giving yourself a more complete picture of yourself, a chance to explore, to experiment, to safely take some risks and make some mistakes. In the long run, you may find too that you're adding something more unique to the pool of creative stuff. I think we're all richer as a community from the variety that comes from people expressing themselves individually, what they want, what interests them, what's on their minds, how they see things, and not just by kind of voting for, well, out of the 5 big box office, big budget things, here's the ones I'm into. Here's the old nostalgia stuff I have. And that's all valid. I'm surrounded by nostalgia stuff. It's fine. But there's more nuance in what you create yourself. Anyway, I'm going to let it go for now. Thanks so much for following along. I'll catch you all next time. Go make stuff, create stuff, first and foremost, primarily for you. Even if you have career aspirations, intentions, goals, progress, keep making stuff for you. We're all better off for it.